will you join me today here in the site of the Nova Music Festival just outside Kibbutz Re'im in southern Israel. On October the 7th, 2023, this site was the subject of a devastating attack by the Islamic resistance movement, known to you and I as Hamas. Today, we're going to see what they left behind. So this whole area over here would have been one of the major stages of this dance festival, and I think a lot of the deaths happened right here. Over here you can just see this is where the DJ sets would have been. This was the guy who was DJing at the time of the attack, who has obviously died as well. And maybe this is even the original equipment that was used during the attack that they've just kind of left. There's the speaker, you can see. It looks like it's been hit by something and sort of damaged. Again, my guess is probably that they just left that as a kind of reminder of what happened. See the Israeli flag. This is a whole list of other people, sort of eulogies of people who presumably died as well. I mean, one thing that really stands out for me just from having a little look around is that the overwhelming majority of people here are young women, young women in their 20s, and young men as well. And for me, there just seems to be something particularly unfair and cruel about that. Over here, this is the kind of main stage. Here are some photos of kind of what was going on at the time of the attack. Again, another DJ over here who died. And this is another photo of what this main stage would have been. So there's just a memorial over here of someone who, again, died at this festival, who did a lot of work evacuating people from the festival. There are so many stories of this where people had the chance to escape unharmed from the music festival, but then they would go back in to try and get other people out, and this is one example of it. And very sadly, eventually this guy, despite being able to rescue some people, ended up getting killed. See, honestly, this is just a real thing of coming here. It is majority just young women in their 20s who died here. Yeah, another one over here. Obviously, it goes without saying that we are quite close to the Gaza border here, and you can actually hear a lot of thudding going on in the background. And I don't know what that is, but it sounds like it might be, military activity from the IDF, whether that's raids or something else. So it's quite chilling to think that we are, that close to, obviously, the Gaza situation, which is very horrific as well. And over here, again, just more graves where people have died. I think what's happened here is they're planting trees, to kind of represent the people who have died. And you see people just left sort of various things here, some candles, presumably this guy's favourite beer. Yeah, you can just see it stretches quite far into the distance. So another thing about being here is because obviously we are quite close to the Gaza Strip, and obviously there is tensions there. There are some things like that people recommend you download this app, just so if there's like a missile strike or something like that from Hamas, people can be well informed and get to a shelter. This is actually a shelter here, as it says. As it says over here, it was only placed after the October 7th attacks. Obviously, I'm sure the Israeli military recognised this would become a kind of memorial spot, but because of the recent escalations, because of everything that happened here, it is now quite a sensitive spot, and potentially sensitive to missile strikes and stuff like that. So that's why we've got one of these here. Over here, this is another shelter that's again was just placed up after the attacks here, as this became a more vulnerable and more sensitive place. It looks like you can go inside, so I might just have a quick look and see what it's like on the inside. This is where, presumably, if there was a strike here, this is where people would hide. And you can see that there's been a lot of graffiti here, all written in Hebrew. Again, like commemorating people who were here. It's funny, obviously you hear all about the war going on. You hear people talk about October 7th all the time, but it's quite strange to actually be here and actually see it for myself. This shelter somewhere that two people hidden, and that's where it was originally, and some Hamas terrorists found them and killed them, and presumably they've moved it here just so it can be part of the exhibition. And you're allowed to have a look inside. Obviously this is quite a dark thing to think, but this is where two people were killed right here at this very spot in this tiny little shelter. There's a little memorial for them there. Two people about my age, probably a bit younger, who had lives, had ambitions, didn't intend on being just a sort of selfie on a memorial over here. As we forget, it's very easy to kind of think all these people here were just, they're just sad cases and it's terribly sad, but these people were real people with real lives and ambitions and whatever. And just over here looks like there's what was another stage on the festival. So this was a bar here in the festival. You can see here just some images of what was left of it, the state it was in before or after the attack. Again, here are some more images of presumably just videos that people took during the attack, and you can just kind of see here, it's kind of normality on the grounds, but just in the distance you can see these sort of helicopters, what were little sort of helicopter pads that the Hamas terrorists kind of flew in on, the Hamas attackers, and you can just see there's just a slight moment of kind of everyone's just realising what's going on, and this is kind of the state that the bar was left in. You can see they've just kind of glued down the bottles where they were left after the attack. It's quite a chilling reminder of how quickly things changed. You can just see all these alcoholic drinks all stuck down, and these taps, these would have would have worked. This is where you know, people would have come to order a beer, whatever else. And if you just come through here, so you see obviously some fridges where drinks would have been stored, and you know, staff working at the festival would have been here and would have been pouring drinks right up until the attack took place. See again some more graves of people who have died. Yeah, the really sad thing is there's like a lot of couples who died here together. I was reading one example of someone who died, and the guy, like a couple who died, and the guy was about to propose to the girl. Like they were both, you know, in their 20s, quite young, and they met each other travelling. And yeah, this guy, his family members knew that he was about to propose to his girlfriend, and obviously she died. They both died before that got the chance to happen, and that is, you know, so sad. You know, obviously there are lots of sides to this conflict, and you know, you know, it's horrible what's happening on both sides, but there's no question that is just really, really sad. So over here, this is a dump truck, like a dumpster, that a lot of civilians hid in during the attack, and it's just been left here again as a kind of memorial for the people who died here. Lots of people were in here, and I was just reading, they hid here for like hours and hours and hours, and none of the Hamas attackers checked inside here until quite late, and then some of them were shot and died. And this is, I mean, this is really sad, but it's just a list of texts that they were sending back and forth to presumably, you know, their parents or friends about the updates, you know, updates in the situation they were in, and yeah, you know, this could have been a family group chat, or their mother, or their friend or something. And yeah, obviously this is all in Hebrew, but there's an English translation, and it's just kind of saying, oh yeah, we're fine, we're just hiding in the bomb truck or whatever, in this sort of dumpster. And then that's kind of the last thing that we see. That's something like, you know, where are you, or something, and then she never replies. And this girl was one of the victims. You can see here, this is them in the truck taking, you know, some photos of them texting their loved ones about what's going on. And yeah, obviously a lot of them don't make it out, and this girl over here was one of them. I mean, can you imagine being a parent and receiving those texts from your child like that? Can you imagine how terrible that would be, how terrifying that would be? And then just to never get a reply all of a sudden. See here, there's another one of them sort of hanging out in the truck, hiding from the Hamas fighters. And just down here, you can just see this is some litter from the dump truck that was left here. You know, again, as a kind of, I guess, a reminder of what happens here. And yeah, the good news is the IDF, when she came here and managed to kill a lot of the Hamas fighters and rescue some of the people who were still in there. Yeah, and it's just some information I've been reading about it. I don't know where they're hiding here, some kind of shelter somewhere. And yeah, some more eulogies. A lot of confusion, no one really knows what's going on. Again, I don't know if you heard that, but there is quite a loud banging that keeps happening in the distance. And you know, my guess is that is stuff going on in the Gaza Strip at the moment. Like I say, we are very close to the border, and I guess it's just a reminder that while here this is kind of a very somber memorial, there is obviously a conflict still raging not too far away. See, just behind me over there, there are tours going on. This one is in French. And it's something you can do. You can book a tour and go around and get shown around by a local guide who can tell you a bit more about like what happens here and everything. Again, you can just see some Israeli flags here. Yeah, it's quite sad, especially to think that a lot of the people who are here are probably were friends with the people who died, you know, and that is just so surreal, and they're coming to a specific point where, you know, one of their friends died, and, you know, putting down some flowers or, you know, a bit of writing or whatever to sort of commemorate them. You can just see behind me over here, we've got lots of poppies. Yeah, I just guess signifying the aftermath, the sort of sad aftermath of this horrific event. You can just see over here there's another tour going on. Again, this one's in French, I think. Yeah. And you can just see over here, these are some tour buses. Obviously, people are coming here. This is obviously quite a big memorial site in Israeli society. And yeah, people get a... Hello, hi, how are you? You alright? People get a tour bus over here. Hello, hi. People just waving at me. Yeah, which is weird to think, but you know, this sort of this horrific site is like, yeah, a place for where people will come and visit, and you can get a coach here. And over here, this is more stuff about it. Real rundown of what happens. And this is a quote from the Book of Job in the Old Testament. Earth, do not cover my blood. May my cry never be laid to rest. There we go. The thing that is really cruel about this attack is that most of the victims were some of like the least politically extreme people in Israeli society. The thing that's just so heartbreaking is most of the people in this festival, who are at this festival, most of the people who are at the kibbutz, you know, who were also targeted, were some of the most like tolerant and, you know, wanted to live in peace with their neighbours. Some of the most tolerant people in Israeli society, you know, and there's stories of like people in the kibbutz, like obviously it's really hard to get access to them. I haven't been able to, but some of the kibbutz, these little communities that were also targeted during this attack, you know, people were killed in horrific manners, who would, you know, on the weekend drive Gazan people into, you know, Israeli hospitals so they could get proper medical care for certain things. I'm sure many of them would have loved, you know, a peaceful two-state solution and whatever, and yeah, there's something quite chilling about the fact that it's these people who suffered, who died. So you just see over here, this is another shelter that's, you know, been put up here in, near the Gaza border, just because this is a more sensitive time and a sensitive region. But you see here again, there's just lots of stickers up. And again, this is most likely people who died on the festival or IDF soldiers and stuff like that. Again, just very young people who had, their whole lives ahead of them. Over here, there's just another eulogy for someone who died, on the 7th of October. Over here, you just see there's another bomb shelter. Some Hebrew graffiti over here. Any of my subscribers who read Hebrew, let me know what that says. And then, inside there's just a fan and some cupboards and stuff. But anyway, what I'm going to do now is get back in my car. I've got a little rental car over here, as you can see, and we're going to travel around the rest of this region a bit more, because there's a lot more to see. And just see what else we can find. See if we can shed any more light about the situation here, how people are feeling, and so it's. You hear that again? There's just some explosions going on in the background. This is obviously quite close to the war zone. So I'm going to get back in the car and continue. Let's go. Fucking hell, it is boiling here. And this car is, very hot. So we're going to get back on the open roads. Explore a bit more of the sites, because obviously the thing is, it obviously wasn't just this site that was targeted, it was all across the border with the Gaza Strip. And driving down here, you'll just see lots of stuff going on there, lots of decorations that people have left in memory of people who have died. So we're going to drive through that. I'm going to try and show you guys a bit of it. Maybe stop at some settlements nearby and try and see what the feeling is about people that people have here. Obviously we are quite close to Gaza, which is unfortunately out of bounds. It's extremely dangerous to go there, but I mean, this is about as close as you can get to the Gaza Strip, which is probably one of the most talked about places in the world at the moment. So let's go. Right, so we've just parked up at this. There's been an accident just up ahead on the roads. I've just met this guy here.
Hi.
Just giving him a lift to. So where is it you want to get to? Sderot?
I need to. Yes, Sderot.
We're just waiting for the traffic to clear. Hopefully, shouldn't be too long. See you in Sderot. Okay, well, I've just arrived here in Sderot, a small town on the border with Gaza, and we're just gonna have a quick walk around and just see what life is like here. Obviously, there is a bit of a tense situation because of the conflicts, and this area is kind of at risk from missile strikes and whatever. But honestly, for what it's worth, just wandering around now, things do feel incredibly normal. I wouldn't have thought that I was how many meters away from a war zone right now, which is one of the strangest things about war, I think, is that everything's very normal until it's not, and very quickly people just adjust their lives. But this is it. Just over here, there's a little cafe and stuff.
Take the first exit onto Yigal Street.
Exit. Might go and get a coffee or something. see over here. This little place. Shalom. Obviously some more stuff about the hostages here. There are still, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think about 100 people still. Well, as you can see over here, this part of Sderot is a little bit of a tip. Let's have a look. I think this is an old market of sorts. Bloody hell, wow. And this has just been all left behind. They haven't really tidied it up. Let's have a look. Look, it looks like there's some fruit markets over here. Bloody hell. Is this what comes to mind for you guys when you think of Israel? Certainly not what I think of. When I think of Israel, I kind of think of Tel Aviv, maybe some of the religious sites in Jerusalem, but I don't really think of this. Really strange. You see there are some Jewish shops, you know, selling some menorahs, some Hanukkahs, stuff like that. During the recent war with Iran, this was targeted by some of the bombing from Iran. So yeah, it's kind of vulnerable on both sides. Shalom.
The vlog?
A vlog, yes, yes.
Where are we from?
England.
England.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, UK. You're from here?
YouTube?
YouTube, yeah.
How much subscribe you?
5,000?
Yeah? Nice.
Yeah.
Very
Nice to
good.
meet you. Take care. There you go, some local lads from Sderot. Some more stuff about the hostages. Yeah, it's interesting, like the hostage situation in Gaza is right at the forefront of the national consciousness here in Israel. It's really like a huge thing. You know, people obviously wanting to recover them. God, but I can't find anywhere that's serving coffee around here. There's a lot of shawarma places, and that's about it. Well, it's not looking terribly promising for coffee here in this small provincial town. You can go and play the lottery there, and there are a few shops around here, but yeah, I might have to go back to the car empty-handed, to be honest, at this rate. Well, let's check out this little shop over here. So good. Oh, what have we got? Ah, perfect. Alright, well, let's get back to the car. Shalom, and head over to a town a little further along called Ashkelon. Sounds like it's some kind of old English kingdom or something. Yeah, we're going to see what that's like, see how it compares to this. Slightly further away from the Gaza conflict zone. Alright, well. Yeah, so I'm just going to drink this coffee and head off to Ashkelon, which is slightly further out of town. On the whole, situation here feels very normal, like life's continuing in a very normal way, despite the threat from Hamas. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought there was any problems going on here. Obviously, just under the surface there is, you know, that risk of something happening, and obviously, yeah, it's close to a really terrible situation in Gaza. So it's quite surreal being here. Okay, well, I just thought I'd come out here to show you guys what's going on over here. We've just stopped outside town over here, Karimia. See, there's a mural over here, and I can't go much further because obviously there's military stuff up ahead and stuff, and it's just a bit of a dodgy area. But down there in the distance is the entrance to the Gaza Strip. So yeah, quite weird to think that not so far away is just, you can even hear it, there are bombs going off and whatever. And it's quite surreal, obviously this, you know, yeah, just it's so weird to be close to such a, obviously there's such terrible stuff going on there at the moment. So just so you see up here, this is where I am at the moment. And just further in, that's when you start arriving at Gaza. This is all Gaza over here. So you see how all this stuff is really, really closely connected. Yeah, and the roads just ends here. Obviously it's a bunch of military stuff, whatever, you're not really meant to be down here, so yeah, I won't get much further, but yeah. There we go, that's the Gaza border for you guys. Alright, well, we've made it to we've made it to Ashkelon here. Not got that much time, but we're just gonna have a quick wander around and see what it's like in this little district. And then we're gonna head back to Tel Aviv. I wanted to go to Jerusalem tonight, but sadly, because of various factors, like getting this car back, I'm gonna have to go tomorrow. But still gives us plenty of time to still on track, so that's the main thing. But yeah, we're just gonna have a wander around this town. A lot of it is just new builds. As I was driving through, it's literally just yeah, lots of new houses, lots of suburbs and stuff, but there are a few shops over here. This is just a presumably a kind of Judaica shop. Here we've got some copies of the Torah and stuff like that. How is life here in this town? It's good?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, nice. And then just some more stuff over
What are
here.
you looking for?
Oh, I'm just having like a wander around. Nothing in particular. But yeah, I was just very curious in your shop. It looked very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you. So you see a lot of the city, they're just building these new builds over here, really expanding these territories. Yeah, I drove through it and it was basically all new builds. Shalom. And yeah, you can sort of come around here and have some foods and stuff. It smells very nice. And over here, this looks like some kind of mural about the October 7th attacks. Obviously I can't read Hebrew, so I'm not sure what it says, but yeah. It looks like this is some kind of bomb shelter. It's got a bed in it, so maybe someone homeless is just sleeping in there at the moment, I don't know. But yeah, obviously the reality of the constant situation in this part of the Middle East, you know, ever since Israel was, you know, the original partition between Israel and Palestine, you know, this has just been a constant state of kind of just about being at war the whole time. There never being like a proper peace between Palestine and Israel. So obviously having shelters like this, particularly here where it's so close to the border with Gaza, is like such a big thing. Yeah. It's something that I think we don't realise in the West because we're just not really used to the idea of being constantly at war, you know. Well, let's check this place out. Shalom. Hi. Over here we've just got a little restaurant here in the city. See if anyone's in, maybe get some food. We'll see. Looks empty. You see over here there's some qualifications which is probably to certify that this place is kosher. Obviously, like in Islam, Judaism has quite specific things about how food should be prepared, whether it's yeah, obviously you have halal in Islam and you have kosher in Judaism. Let's see if we can get a table. Shalom. Table for one person? Just a table for one? Can I sit down? Do you speak English at all? No. Can I just, to eat? Here, you are open. Can I like order something, some food? Sorry? So I sit down? Oh, okay, oh thank you. Alright, so I think she said sit down and I'll sort you out, so yeah. One interesting thing about the Middle East, well about Israel, is that actually people don't really speak English that much. And I've really made no effort to learn Hebrew, which is really bad. Normally I really put a lot of effort into learning the language that I go to, the country I go to. But for some reason with Hebrew, I've not really put that much time into it. I don't know whether it's the alphabets or the kind of, yeah, I don't know what it is. But for whatever reason, I've kind of not really been that engaged with learning Hebrew, which is a shame because actually you do need to speak it to get around. People don't really speak much English. But it's interesting because you know, Hebrew is a relatively new language in its modern form. It was obviously going back thousands of years. It was like the language of the ancient Israelites, you know, but it was a dead language for, you know, several hundred years, and it only started being used as a spoken language again when with Zionism, when people moved to Israel and they needed a kind of common language to communicate in. Instead of choosing something like Yiddish or German or Russian, you know, which is what most, you know, many of the Jews spoke, they decided to speak the traditional heritage language of the Jews, which is of course Hebrew. So it's kind of been one of the few examples of a dead language really coming back to life. You know, unlike Latin or ancient Greek or Coptic, you know, this is a language, an ancient language that is alive today, alive and well today. Alright, well, that rounds up this video here in southern Israel. You know, we've had a look at obviously the Nova Music Festival, had a look at some of the communities, some of the towns near the border that have been affected by everything that's going on. We've seen the Gaza border. It's really been quite an extraordinary video. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm gonna round things off here in Ashkelon, in these, you know, very modernistic suburbs around me. But yeah, thanks for watching as always, and yeah, from here I'm just going to drive back to Tel Aviv and try and find a hostel, so there's not really much to see. So yeah, I'll spare you me driving back to Tel Aviv. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching and see you guys very soon.